Democratic perspectives, news, interviews, and smart thinking for a better, freer America. Today's Democratic Perspective host, Chris Lunn, and his guest, Jill Derby.
Hi, I'm Chris Lunn, and this is Democratic Perspective. Today we have the honor and privilege of interviewing Jill Derby, who is running for against Dean Heller for the congressional seat in CD2 in the state of Nevada. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
I've heard that you're a longtime resident of Nevada. You were born here, I believe, in Lovelock, and have been in Douglas County for quite a while, too.
Yeah, now, I've lived in Douglas County probably 36 years, married to Dr. Steve Talbot, who's been a veterinarian with the Carson Valley Veterinary Hospital for probably 40 years. But I started life on a ranch out in Lovelock, the Flying Flapjack Ranch, as a matter of fact, because my great-grandfather had bought land, and my parents went and developed it during the Depression. Actually, my grandfather worked in the Virginia City mines. My dad went to the 4th Ward School out in Virginia City. Wow. And then during the Depression, they developed this land into the Flying Flapjack Ranch. And that's where I started life, although, actually my mom had some obstetrical problems, took me down to the Bay Area because of a difficult delivery. But spent my early years in Lovelock. We left when I was young because my dad was training pilots for the Air Force, and so took us away from Nevada. And so I spent some time over in California with following my dad's career. But after I graduated from college, I went off to the Middle East. I took a job in the Middle East, lived there for 3 years, and actually learned the language, learned to speak Arabic, and got very interested in the difference that culture makes. I got so interested in the difference that culture makes in people trying to communicate and work together that I came back and went back to school, came back to Nevada, this was in the late 60s, and went back to school, got a second degree from a Nevada university, and then went on to get a doctorate in cultural anthropology with a specialty in Middle Eastern cultures. I commuted to do some of that.
You should be in the CIA.
No, I've never been drawn to the CIA, but I should be in Congress. Yes. Because, given all the challenges we have in the Middle East, I've lived there, I know that language. That's been my academic background as well. So that's one of the reasons that has me running for Congress is just that experience, broader experience of living abroad and knowing that region of the world that's such a challenge to us. But anyway, when I got back to Nevada, I married Steve Talbot. We've lived in Minden, Gardnerville ever since and raised our kids here. Then, as you know, I ran for the Nevada Board of Regents, served 18 years on the Nevada Board of Regents. It's a non-paying board, by the way. It was really volunteer. But it really expressed my passion for education, which is another really, really important issue for me.
And your children are products of Douglas County school system.
Yeah.
And they have gone on to?
Yeah, they've gone on to great careers. Great. And we're proud of them. My daughter lives in Reno and is a nurse, a graduate of Nevada State College. And my son went on to a higher degree, actually, and is a math professor now.
Great.
Anyway, so those are, goes back to my great-grandfather. In fact, if you drive between here and Elko, you go by the Derby Dam and the Derby Airport.
Seen it off Highway 80 myself.
It's all part of my family's heritage.
Oh,
so even though it hasn't been a continuous tenure, that's where my roots are, and that's where I've spent the last 40 years.
Well, as a citizen of Douglas County, I'm really proud that you are also a citizen of Douglas County and running for Congress. So we're going to get you elected. Yeah. Can you give me a little idea, from your background and what are your motivations for running for Congress? I mean, what is it that has brought you? This is a pretty big thing to bite off.
Yeah.
And, to step up to the plate like this is kind of scary to me.
I started to realize over the last couple of years that things aren't going very well in this country. Certainly, in terms of foreign policy, we've lost some ground. The enormous amounts of blood and treasure we've poured into the sands of Iraq. Really concerned about our stature in the world, the amount we're spending that isn't coming home. Even lately, the frustration of that the Iraq government has a surplus of $80 billion from oil, and we're still footing the bill to rebuild the country. I just think things aren't working very well. I know many people who feel like we've gotten off track in terms of our economy. We look at what's happening now, and it really is the culmination of probably, 7.5 years of a failed fiscal policy. Disastrous deficit spending has already dug us into a hole, and then a complete lack of oversight in the financial industry and regulation has led us to really the brink of a disaster in terms of our economy and the banking crisis we're now in. So there are, a whole number of issues that include healthcare, which is in crisis, hasn't been fixed over the last couple of years. And I think 2006 was an election about a mandate for change that never happened. And we just can't keep going in this direction. And I'm in this election saying we just can't afford more of the same. And my opponent, Dean Heller, represents more of the same. He went to Congress the night actually that he beat me and I was defeated in this election. I had a conversation with him. I asked him if he would be independent and hold Nevada first. He said he would. I said I'd hold his feet to the fire. I have. He's let us down. Taken a lot of money from big oil, voted with big oil rather than renewable energy, which is one of Nevada's great strengths. We're so positioned to prosper from exporting renewable energy, developing it, great jobs in those industries, solid jobs, stable jobs, well-paying jobs, jobs that stay here in Nevada, can't be shipped overseas. Renewable energy is consistently voted against it. The same is with other kind of votes that he's taken. He voted against health care for children. 70,000 Nevada kids who don't have access to medical checkups could have gotten them in the S-chip bill. Mm-hmm. And he voted against it. So I've watched all those things, and I just keep saying Nevada deserves better. This trajectory we've been on over the last 7.5 years has not served us well. The hour is late to get this country back on track and aligned with the principles that made it a great nation, like opportunity for all and a level playing field, reward for hard work.
Well, there surely is a contrast between you and Mr. Heller. I know that I believe his record is 92% voting with George Bush's policies in the meager 2 years he's been there, which is basically, seems to me, he's definitely pounded the more nails into the coffin of the disaster that we're confronted with.
I couldn't agree more, and that all has me running for office. And not only that, but there's an institute in Washington that grades congressmen and women according to their support for middle-class legislation. And Dean Heller gets an F for failing. In 2007, the Congressional Quarterly, it does this every year, they rank members of Congress according to their power and influence in Congress. And Dean Heller was ranked 435, 435th out of 435.
Wow.
I say Nevada deserves better, and Nevada deserves a representative that looks out for Nevadans, votes independently, but looks out for Nevadans.
Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the boot of rural Nevada?
I have roots in rural Nevada. Now, I didn't grow up out there because we left the ranch when I was young. But that's sort of where my values come from, where my roots are. And then living in Douglas County for the last 35, 36 years, it's less rural than it used to be. But this is, it's still been rural Nevada. So I feel like, when I'm touring rural Nevada, talking to folks, I feel like one of them. And here's one of the things I like to say, Chris, out of my roots, out of my heritage, is that I started life on the Flying Flapjack Ranch out in Lovelock. So my roots run deep in the soil where folks talk straight, look you in the eye, and mean what they say. And I say we need more of that in Washington, D.C. And that has me running for Congress.
Democratic Perspectives is presented by the Democrats of Douglas County, Nevada, promoting sensible government for today and tomorrow.